When I exited Miinto, I was sabotaging myself. I was overspending. I was taking drugs. I was living a lifestyle of a rock star. Imagining the Wolf of Wall Street without me having all that money on my account, but hanging around with people with that amount on their account. And you've probably seen the sceneries in these flights where it's cocaine and it's women and it's crazy. That was how I lived. In the public's eye, I looked perfect, but inside I was rotten, and I was an addict for dopamine and cocaine and sex and alcohol and wildlife. I decided I need to get the fuck out of here.
Welcome so much, Mark, and thank you so much for participating in the EduvoTalks podcast.
My pleasure, Fredrik. Thank you.
So, for starting out, for those who don't know you and don't know Mike Radoor, who are Mike Radoor in his own words?
I am I call myself a mental artist that help high-income men to stop self-sabotaging and become the man they admire. That's my brand.
Yeah.
But behind the scene, I'm just I'm a normal young man who's been going through a journey of building a lot of businesses and cracking down my life and rebuilding my life and trying to figure out where to go. I'm a father to a young daughter. 39 years old. I live by coaching people. I write books. Have my 4th book coming out, and then I'm enjoying life in Marbella.
Nice. It's a lovely place to enjoy life.
It is.
How long time have you been living in Marbella?
I'm on my 5th year now.
5th year. Okay. And was that from Sweden or Denmark you moved, or?
I ran away from Sweden. I had the craziest lifestyle in Sweden, and I literally ran away to come here. Yeah.
Interesting. So, actually, for those who probably know you've been involved in some different entrepreneurship before, that's both including like School, Parrot, Miinto, etc. So, what actually was the biggest transition for you to actually go from this like venture entrepreneur to actually be transitioned into a full-time coach?
It wasn't that difficult, since that when we had our expansion phase in Miinto, at that time I was flying around in all the countries that we were expanding into, and I was acting as an interim managing director or a sales coach or helping the sales teams to get set up. And I always was interested at that point in self-development and optimization, productivity, and I used that a lot to the teams inside Miinto. So the transition wasn't that difficult. I would say the hardest transition was to do my social medias, to suddenly speak up about yourself.
Yeah,
that was a transition I had to get used to. When you sit in a business, you can hide yourself behind the brand, but now you become the brand, which means you have to dare to be vulnerable. You have to dare for people not to like you, and that was a hard one.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting topic, because I feel like you see a lot of these bigger entrepreneurs that like work for 5 years, they exit the company, and then after that, they actually feel a bit empty inside, because like they have been used to that they were the brand, like they identify themselves as a brand, and now it's actually like this person doesn't really have any brand for themselves.
Yeah, it's an identity crisis when you spend. On my time, I spent 7 years in Miinto, and I was in my 20s, right?
Yeah.
And when you're done there, you kind of doubt yourself. And it depends on how you are inside. My self-worth was low, and generally since I grew up. But when I exited Miinto, I was questioning myself: am I actually good at something? Was I lucky? Was it the people we hired? It was the people we hired, of course. But yeah, I had a big crisis there. Absolutely.
That's brilliant. So, talking about that crisis, it's actually a quite interesting moment of your story. So, is there like a red thread or some like common things that actually teach you a lot of these guidances for transitioning into a coach from the venture?
Yeah, first of all, I was sabotaging myself. I was, overspending. I was taking drugs. I was living a lifestyle of a rock star, which was something I painted in my mind, that it's life to go out and buy whatever you want. When you get a couple of million euros on your account, you haven't grounded yourself, you let go.
Yeah.
And when I had that crisis of who am I, etc., I spent more time of trying to get validated from people. I was constantly looking for validation, external validation. And that's where I burned out. That's where I crashed and burned my life down. over a period of 7 years after. So I spent 7 years building my fortune and 7 years destroying it again.
Yeah. Okay.
And there, suddenly I woke up and I had to really, it's now or never to change. It's now or never that I have to make a transition into something that can, get that back, or at least get my dignity and my self-respect back. And there I had to dig deep inside myself. And when I figured out what my problem was and I figured out how to conquer it, and naturally I became a good coach in that.
Okay, interesting. Would you say that there was like a moment where it clicked for you in terms of that now I actually need to have some more self-discipline, or?
Yeah. Yes, I can take you back to the exact moment. There's been a few wake-up calls. But imagining the Wolf of Wall Street without me having all that money on my account, but hanging around with people with that amount on their account. And you've probably seen the sceneries in these flights, right? Where it's cocaine and it's women and it's just crazy. That was how I lived for a long time. And I remember after being doing that for 5-6 years, of course, not every day, I still was building businesses and I was functional. And in the public's eye, I looked perfect, but inside I was rotten, and I was an addict. I was an addict Thursday, Friday, Saturday for dopamine and cocaine and sex and alcohol and wildlife and etc. And there's one morning when I didn't sleep for 48 hours, and I'm looking myself in the mirror, and I have this tremendous agony, mental agony. Or first of all, you have all the withdrawals effect of all the drugs that I've been taking. I didn't have any oxytocin inside of me. All my chemistry was fucked, and I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. And it was screaming inside of me that, I need a change. This was after 6 years of that lifestyle, and my bank account was getting empty, and I felt like a bum. And it was in my apartment, and, in my bed was 2 hot ladies, and in my couch there was a guy, and there was a dog in my apartment. It was a mess. There was alcohol everywhere and drugs everywhere. And that's where I really realized that I need to change. I don't like who I am. That was the first transition. And that's where I stopped partying, and I met... stop partying is the wrong way of saying it. I stopped the intensity of partying. And then I went to Marbella on a vacation, and I met an Iranian woman, and I fell madly in love. And she was living in Iran, and she moved to Sweden. But at that time, I hadn't really gotten out of it completely. So while I was with her, I was still a douchebag, and I still was missing that kick I got in the weekends. And my friends, the circle of the friends I had was still the same. So I was still hanging around people with bad habits. And, I was cheating on her, and I was, being an asshole, being a complete fuck up. And then I was tired of that, and I would go to Marbella again, and I fall in love in another woman. You see? Oh, Jesus, I was just repeating myself. But I wasn't really in love with that Iranian woman. I was in love more with the thought of calming down, right? And she was a tool for that. So I was literally using her as a tool, which is completely not okay. But that was the truth. And then when I fell in love, this is the mother to my child, I fell in love with her. I decided I need to get the fuck out of here. I need to leave. I need to get out of this toxic environment and leave my toxic self behind. And that was the next wake-up call.
Yeah.
And one I got was after 5 years together with the mother to my child. And we broke up 3 months after my daughter was born. And what happened there, and I didn't do drugs for 2 years there. I was stopped because she got pregnant, etc., etc. So we stopped together. And then when she threw me out, I went straight back to the old Mike. Right, that same night, she threw me out. Both of us was toxic, and she had unhealed wounds. I'm not blaming her. She's not blaming me, and we're friends today. We figured it out. But still, right in the day she broke up with me, and here we have a 3-month-old daughter, right? I went straight into a hotel. I called up 5 girls, and I did the exact same thing I always did. That morning.
Yeah.
That morning was supposed to be the one, but it wasn't. But I was in agony. And I went to Ibiza the same day. And I was there for 4 days doing the exact same thing I always did. And that was the time when I woke up. So that was the breaking point. I had to get to the rock bottom. That's typically where people change their life. When they get so sick and tired of who they are. They get so sick and tired of
there's enough.
It's just you just hit rock bottom. And I did that. And that's where I changed. And ever since then, I've been on a different route.
Interesting. That's really inspiring.
I don't know. Well, it was the true story, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But that's also normally how you get the most inspiring stories.
True. Yeah.
It's not always as fun as fiction.
Oh, no. It takes some bravery also to look yourself in the eye. And
100%. That, I think that's like the most important part of it, to be honest. That's actually when you actually can look yourself in the mirror and be realistic.
Absolutely.
Situation with is because like a lot of people is actually just like having this wistful mindset, right? So
a delusional, self-deceptional. And it's also, it takes, when I started to be authentic, first of all, before I started talking about it, I had to change. I couldn't talk about something that I wanted to be. I had to be it, right? To be someone, I had to become someone. So I went through some hectic periods of time over a year. And when I finally was ready to say, listen, I'm not this dude anymore, that's when I started to come out with a story. That's when I started to say, guys, this was my life, and I know how it feels. And if you're fucked as me, I can help you.
That's interesting. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I know you wrote a couple of books, for example, and in some of them you're actually speaking about the concept of resetting your mindset. Is that something you can take us through?
Yeah. So my last book is called Above Average: The Science of Achievement, which became, fortunate enough, an international bestseller on Amazon. And that book is about self-image, to reprogram your limiting beliefs. And what that is all about when you grow up as a kid, all the authorities around you, your mom and your dad's parents, your parents' friends, and all the authorities, the football coach, the school teacher, the society norms, they will program in a set of rules of how things are supposed to be and what you think and feel and what you're capable of or not. And when I figured that, so when I really changed, that was when I started to use the power of thought. So I dived into more than 700 self-development books. I would never recommend anyone to do that. But I had to figure out what's wrong with me. I went to psychologists, but there was none of these psychologists that I met who had lived my life or who had my ambitions. So I went on my own self-journey, on my solitude. And my book, Above Average, that talks about resetting your mind is, think of your mind as a clean sheet of paper. When you're born, that's what it is. And whoever you hang around with, that becomes your life story. That becomes your narratives, right? When I figured that out, I was like, Jesus Christ, I can rewrite that fucking story. And, but I had to first realize what the cause was for my self-sabotage. And my cause was low self-worth.
Yeah.
The fix for that was me changing my self-image. And I became good at that.
Interesting. So would you actually, looking at that, would you say that there is some like aspects that basically differentiate that basically sets apart successful people and unsuccessful people?
But there's many factors to that.
There is a lot of factors.
But definitely, right? Definitely. Because one thing is to become a success. Another thing is to stay one. I became one, but I didn't stay one. So you will always have, so people will never change or move unless the pain of where they are is bigger than the pain of the journey they're going to embark on. And I had a hunger of proving myself. That was how I became successful. I wanted to be someone special because I didn't feel like someone special. My self-worth was low. But when I then was someone, I didn't feel like someone. So I was busy getting validated again. So you could say that successful people has a hunger. But to stay successful, you need principles, you need rules. There's one thing that I've learned, which every single spiritual book talks about. And that's what I teach my clients. And if you can master this, so the Stoics, they talk about it like the 4 cardinal virtues, which is wisdom, like master these things: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Temperance is self-control. And if you ever, I don't expect you to read the Bible, but in the Bible you have, for example, Jesus walking on 40 days in the desert, and the devil goes with him, right? The devil as being, in my opinion, the ego. And he's constantly being met with temptations, constantly. And he refuses that. He stays loyal to God's word. This is a symbolic story of how humans can stay strong by resisting temptation. I'm like, oh my God, there it is. The temptation to get angry, the temptation to fuck around, the temptation to take drugs, the temptation to take the easy way out. If you can resist temptation and put a goal down and just keep doing what you're supposed to do, you're going to get there. But all your narratives in your mind, all your perspectives, will bring you on D routes. And I learned to master that. And the way I learned to really master that was by resisting temptation. I can give you a basic example. Now, you are on a weight loss journey. You've been on that journey and you are very close to your goal. Like you have now been dieting and doing all the right things for 3 months, and you're better than you've ever been. Now, inside of you, you have a narrative of a baseline of who you are. You will naturally seek back to that baseline. So you will start to self-destruct. And there you really have to understand how to resist temptation. So you sit home at night, your habit is, okay, when I'm sad or when I'm bored, you need dopamine. And you start to eat candy and watch Netflix. Okay, you can't do that because you want to stay ripped, but you still want to have that dopamine fix. You go and take drugs and drink soda. I can get my dopamine kick by taking drugs and banging girls, and I'm not going to get fat. So you find some way to be self-destructive. So you need to learn to resist temptation. That is, in my world, a key to life.
And is that more about having a goal that's so clear to you, or like how do you normally like proceed with that?
So it could be it's a process, right? It's a process of understanding. It's an awareness expansion. But I would say, if you have a goal and you want to reach that goal, anything that comes in the way is not a problem unless you make it a problem. It's just a challenge, right? So what can be, I call it a vice, a self-destructive behavior. A vice is drugs, alcohol, overindulgence, laziness, procrastination, even fear. That's if you can resist that and just do it, there's nothing that can stop you. You're a human being. You can learn. You're a learning human being. You learn all the time. But your idea of that task is what scares you or what brings you on a D route. So you will always be able to reach your goal when you master your mind. And the biggest thing you got to master is to resist temptation. And it's just as that. And you say, but Mike, how do you learn to do that? Well, think back the last 3 months. How many times have you fallen into the temptation trap, right? So we are dopamine hunting people. And also the entire economy right now, the dopamine economy, the porn industry, the alcohol industry, the sugar industry, the Netflix industry, the entertainment industry, I would say, social, everything is kind of harvesting on your biggest survival instinct, which is seek towards comfort, seek towards feels good. So I used to say, it's not always what feels good that is good, right? So when you can learn to resist that and know the difference from doing right and feeling good. I used to say that, okay, let's imagine during your day so I have to come up with a lot of stories for people to understand it.
So basically relate.
I need to come with perspectives for them. So I used to say, okay, listen, you have, during the day, you have 100 situations where you need to take a decision. Most of them you take unconsciously. But every time you take a decision, you can choose to go with the comfortable, pleasure, easy, safe, or whatever strengthens your character.
Okay.
Or you choose what strengthens your character the faster you get there.
Is that the definition of high performance too? That you basically strengthen your character all the time, or is that something completely different?
What is high performance? High performance is you getting into a rate of speed over a period of long time without burning out, right? High performance is, for me, if you look at a race, Le Mans, that's high performance. But they got to go into pit stop once in a while for them to really drive you. But they know. So that's the smart thing with the Le Mans and the entire team. They know what that machine is capable of. So they go into pit stop. So they go in humongous long time with a high speed. That's high performance. For you to do that, you definitely got to be able to resist temptation. Because you might think that if you are building a business, you're doing this, you're doing that, you might think you can go 200 kilometers per hour. You can't. You need to find something that makes your nervous system to calm down. But that's not supposed to be alcohol. That's not supposed to be drugs. That's not supposed to be eating chips in a couch. So if you want to talk about high performance, just look at Cristiano Ronaldo. That's high performance, a constant high performance, constant. His body is high performance. His brain is high performance. His discipline is high performance. His values is high performance. So you need to implement a set of rules and understanding values and stay true to them.
Okay.
That's the point. Stay true to them. So one of my self-designed life principles is purpose over pleasure. Purpose over pleasure. So that means I'm really good at impulse control. I put up a reel the other day on my Instagram. I said, listen, it's completely normal to want to have sex with another woman when you're in a relationship. You're a man. It's completely normal to fantasize and have a desire. But it is your response to that desire that creates your identity. So you need to be able to really choose discipline over impulse every fucking time. That's high performance.
That's a good answer, definitely. So that's actually wanted to dive a bit deeper in this whole like high performance lifestyle, because as I think Ronaldo, great example with like, here we have a person that only drink water, like get the maximum out of his workouts all the time. But there is also people that is not perfect and have some self-doubt sometimes, etc. What would be the best way for if let's say that I've been working hard for 1 month, been staying true to the principles, but then something happens. That can be something internal, like some self-doubt, or it can be something external, like a grandmother dies, a mother dies, something like that. How can you take those disasters and still put it into perspective to basically keep pushing through?
Well, you need some training in understanding how you work. Emotions is just emotions. The only thing that stops you in life and whatever you want to have is your emotions.
Yeah.
Emotions is also one of the most beautiful things to have as a human being. It's so beautiful to experience, but it's also to understand that it's an understanding, Friedrich. When terrible things happen, like how you react on that, that's going to determine your success. And there's a lot of societal norms that says, are you not even moaning over your parents are dead? You don't know if I've been moaning, but there's so many ideas of how we should act and not act. So here's what I'm saying. Success is you setting up a target, not reaching it. That's not success. Then you're just there. So success is you setting up a target and doing your best every single day to reach it. Then you are a success. Then life happens. And then you handle that too. You just handle things with, it's called emotional intelligence. So my answer to your question is self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Those are the two most important skills to master in high performance. So if you are experiencing something traumatic in your life, if you have a high emotional intelligence, you know how to handle it. If you were like me, like an impulse crazy guy, you would be freaking out. And, as soon as something tough happened in my life, I would go out and destroy myself and punish myself. That's not emotional intelligence and definitely not self-awareness. So every person who can be taught the skills of emotional intelligence and self-awareness, they can reach it.
Okay. What's your own principles that not only for the like emotions part, but also for the high performance? Now we've been through a lot of these different, like your previous story. We've been through some about how people can optimize their well-being, their life, etc. But which principles is Mike living from?
Yeah, good question. So I had to sit down and figure out. First of all, everyone is living from principles. The question is just if it's unconscious or conscious. So the reason why you react on something. So imagine you have something called stimulus, and then you have response. You're being stimulated by something. You meet some people, or you are having a thought or having an emotion. Depending on how you respond to that, you will have an autopilot of solutions that your brain has kind of stored, right? Remember that. And that is principles. For example, there was one principle that didn't work for me any longer when I was an adult. When I was a kid, I grew up in a small ghetto, and that was an eye for an eye. That was a principle. Well, dude, that doesn't work in the adult life. It really doesn't. There's nothing to do with love. But I had that, and that meant I got into trouble a lot of time. I got to revenge myself. So you have to figure out what principles are you running on right now, and that takes a little self-awareness exercise. And from there on, you can design some principles, which I did. And one of them I'm having, for example, is what I fear I must do. But have that because I know that nothing is real. I don't bring my fear into my grave and to the other side. So it's just something I'm making up. So if I fear it, I must do it. And what I admire, I will acquire. Acquire what you admire. So if I'm admiring some personal traits in a person, and instead of just admiring that dude, I'm going to acquire that. So that means I kind of personify the teaching. So I take this guy and I rip him apart on paper, and I figure out what is this guy doing, and I'm trying to implement that in my life. That's something. And then I have purpose over pleasure, always. And then I have the most important one that literally saved my life is I say I do. You know what? I keep my word close to 100%. It will never be 100%. And then I have the last one is the regret is my guideline. So because I figured out that I kept doing the same mistakes and I regretted it. Now I know if I'm regretting something, that's my guideline. Don't do that again. And then I'm so focused on not doing that again. That means every day I'm getting closer to, literally just be living in alignment. So I put up a goal, and to get that goal, I need to be aligned in my actions towards it. And those principles, they help me doing that.
So Mike, how do you normally help people uncover that purpose? Because I guess you have a lot of people coming to you saying, Mike, I don't have any purpose.
Yeah.
How can you start implementing all these principles if you don't know what the goal is?
Yeah. But purpose, most people don't have a purpose because they never thought about it. And most people don't have a purpose because they have misunderstood what purpose means, in my opinion. So I have a one-size-fits-all purpose. And of course, you have to let people speak. And then, that's why I call myself a mental artist, because I've mastered the skill of changing people's perspective. So I can't just say, hey, this is your purpose. I have to listen to them and I have to challenge them. So I have to figure out where they are. But the one-size-fits-all purpose, which is also matching in every single spiritual book there is out there, everything is about this. And it even says in the Bible, it says, you need to use your God-given gifts to serve others.
Yeah.
And then you can translate that. So my translation is, develop the absolute best version of yourself and use that to serve others. Use that as, explaining yourself in a creative manner in whatever you love doing. That's the purpose, because you can always work on yourself. This project is yourself, right? You can work on your values, you can work on your loyalty, you can work on your discipline, you can work on, because inside we all have what I call the voice of God. I'm not religious, but I became spiritual.
Yeah.
Because there's so much understanding in that. But even Jordan B. Peterson, he talks about the conscious, congruent lifestyle. You know deep inside what is right or wrong. Where do you have that from? I got it from my parents. No. I'm talking about something deeper than that. Nobody can explain that. We know what is wrong and what is right. And it always feels right to develop yourself into be a better person, right? So if everything goes to shit, your job goes to shit, your relationship goes to shit, well, you are only harvesting what you are putting seeds in. So I always tell people that if you are on a path right now where you have lost yourself or whatever, or even if you haven't lost yourself, if you lost your drive, work on yourself. Figure out who do you want to be and do everything you can to be that person. So that's where the shift happens. And most people are waiting for motivation, right? People believe in motivation. It's fucked up. It doesn't exist. It's not. It's a choice. It's a decision. And the shift is you starting to act like that person. That's the shift. You start to act like that person. So right now we are one big, clusterfuck of narratives that makes us being reactive people. Like if you constantly had to take a proactive decision in every single little decision in your life, you would be overheated up in your brain. So that's why we have habits, right? That's why you do stuff habitually. Before you even look around, you sit with a beer in your hand, or before you look around, you're scrolling Instagram. It's just habits.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is take a step back and figure out, okay, first of all, where am I going? I'm going there. Good. Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be as a person? And it all comes down to self-respect. Now, I've had so much fun, Friedrich. Don't get me wrong, until it was not, right? And I've hurt people on my way, not consciously, but I've hurt people. And the first step I always teach people is what I call wake the fuck up. Wake up. And I'm trying to provoke in them that pain that I felt, because I know that everyone really, it's so hard to, let's take Denmark, for example. Danish people are the hardest motherfuckers to coach, because unless they have hit rock bottom, because they're so comfortable. They're so comfortable. And, I love when people, they are comparing themselves with their peers. First of all, I tell all the people in the world, everyone I'm coaching, don't compare yourself with average. The baseline of shit is growing on average. Like, people are getting more depressed. People are getting more lazy. People are really getting worse. And we compare ourselves with average. We are going to end up in a shitty situation. So I tell people that's the first step, to wake up and face yourself. All the bad habits you have, write down on a piece of paper everything that you're not happy with in your life. Everything you're not happy about your own self-image, that you dislike with yourself. There you have it. Be the opposite. And then the hardest task of them all is I got inspired by, not that I entered that, but I was so inspired by the anonymous alcoholic business model and the 12 steps. They have, you have to make amendments to people that you hurt. I did that. Oh God, that's difficult. Dude, to call an ex and say, I cheated on you first of all, and you have to mean it. You don't call them for your sake. You call to set them free, right? And then you also say, and there was also this person. And that's really difficult. But you do that because you want to serve them with the truth, right? It might hurt them, but I'm telling you, when you set yourself and them free, something beautiful happens. So that's the first step all my clients go through. They have to make amendments.
So that's actually not only being honest to them, but also to yourself.
Completely honest to yourself. You can't change unless you're honest to yourself. I tried, and I kept going back to my old me. But in the moment I faced myself and I said, you motherfucker, and I stopped accepting that guy I didn't want it to be. I stopped accepting that lifestyle I didn't want to have. That's when I changed.
Interesting. You're speaking a bit about like this increase of depression and stress, etc. Do you have any idea where that is coming from?
Yeah, I do have an idea. I believe there is an author who wrote a book called The Comfort Crisis. Now I forgot the name of him. It probably pops up. And that book is about a guy who was a pathetic professional that was writing sports articles while he was drinking whiskey and smoking cigarettes. And he was wondering, why the fuck am I sitting here writing all these sports and I'm this fat and lazy dude? So he took the task on and he started to seek challenges. And in that book, he kind of opens up for the human history of the evolution of humans. And, and here is my answer to that. So 200,000 to 300,000 years ago, you and I, our ancestors, the Homo sapiens, they came into the world. Thank God we're not Neanderthals, huh? And, when Homo sapiens came to the world, the brain that they had, we have. So our brain haven't changed a bit. So imagine waking up 200,000 to 300,000 years ago, bro. That's a different lifestyle, right? That's constant pain, constant cold, constant very harsh environment. So the last 100 years, the convenience and comfort levels has grown to unheard heights. There's 7 million Chinese people that literally never leaves their home. They don't have to leave their home. So why are people getting more depressed? So in that book, he talks about that we are built, because of the brain is built like this, whether we are built to challenge ourselves. Humans, look at kids. Kids that are being you call it understimulated. They are understimulated, right?
It's a classic excuse. Yeah.
But kids that are understimulated, they get overheated, right? They get ADHD. They figure out something. So he says that people that are not challenged and not enough in their life tend to be more depressed and feeling lonely. And I believe in that. I believe people are so not challenged physically, spiritually, mentally, in all the levels. And that's why people get depressed, because we have so much dopamine to fix it up. Let me give you an example. If you are sitting in your room and there is a TV and there is a computer and you love computer games, dopamine against dopamine, computer, right? Now, there's no computer, there's a TV, there's a book, TV. Now there's a brick wall and a book. So you always choose what gives you most dopamine. And because we have all this economy that is harvesting on our survival instinct, which is seeking towards comfort and chasing dopamine, we don't even know we allowed that. We don't even know that we're doing. We like, every time there comes a new app, there comes a new service, it is to make it easier for us. Easier. And now you have to put on self-applied suffering. That's not fun. So people are not challenged enough.
So more challenges would actually help society.
Physical challenges. Like, for example, my daughter, she's 17 months old. She can do all the colors because the mother she's an angel. She can speak, she can spell. What letter is this? O. What letter is P? because he teaches her and she loves it. They were just in England, and she called me and she said, look, they were in a children's shop. And she tried to give her all the toys. She just threw it and she went straight to the bookshelf because that's what she loves.
Yeah.
So people are definitely not challenged enough. Look at the development of audiobooks. Again, easier. Nobody's like, you don't learn shit in an audiobook unless you discipline yourself to sit down and take notes. You got to dive into it. Yeah.
So basically, try
unchallenged. Yeah. So the same thing in every big spiritual history book, there is a main character. In the Bible, it was Jesus, one of them. And then you have a story in, for example, the Japanese ancient history spiritual books, which is they send out, and this has happened through the history of humankind, that we send out the young boys out into nature. And if they come back, they come back as men. And if they don't come back, they're fucked. And in Japanese culture, they call it mizugi. So you don't have your mizugi. You're not challenged enough. And I believe in that.
Interesting. Would you say that some of the people you have helped is like successful in, because success is a lot of different things. We can definitely agree on that. So would you say that some of the people you have coached has been successful on a business perspective, but maybe not so successful in these kind of principles and these kind of challenges we're talking about right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a very strict opinion about what a man is and what a man is not. First of all, I don't believe a man is fat. That's not a man. That's a couch potato. I don't believe in that. How could you allow yourself to be why am I saying that? Because you're limiting your opportunities out there if you're fat, because it's biologically, I think there's a new study that just came out. I don't know the source, but I know it's for real because I studied it, that women, the perfect body fat percentage that women are naturally drawn to is 12%. The average body fat percentage in America is fatter than a pig. It's not attractive, bro. But because if you're a fat woman, you know you're not going to get this ripped guy. So I don't believe that you are a successful person unless you have a good health, unless you have a decent 12% body fat. Like when you have above 12% body fat, that means that you are seeking towards comfort. You're not lifting your ass from that couch, or you're not disciplined. You're not resisting temptation for those cookies, right? So I call it ripped, rich, rare. So I see a lot of rich people that are fat. I see a lot of ripped people that are not successful. So we can't stand on our successes. We need to stand on our weaknesses. So when I get a client in, I figure out where he's weak, and then we dive in there.
Okay. So that can actually both be physical and mentally.
Yeah, we figure out where he sucks. Where do you suck? Okay, let's get you strong there.
Yeah. And you can always be better. That's a completely another story.
Yeah, of course you can.
Higher performance.
I believe you should, because you have the opportunity. Again, what's your purpose? To develop the absolute best version of yourself. Then people say, well, where's the enjoyment of life? But what you are mixing up enjoyment and comfort.
Yeah. It's two different.
It's two different things. But I need to be comfortable too. You are comfortable, motherfucker. You're super comfortable. Don't you sleep in a bed at night? You're comfortable. You're too comfortable. Look at you, you comfortable fat sack. You know, I also provoke people because I know that people change in pain. So the way I speak, I communicate in a very specific manner that got me out of my chair. So I'm that mirror that people haven't put up in their face. And then they ask me, Mike, are you not getting stressed with those high standards? No, I just made it my baseline. So I don't think Ronaldo is stressed. He enjoys himself. I think.
Do you sometimes think that you actually is speaking to the older version of yourself?
I'm only speaking to the older version. Yes, I'm only speaking to the older version of me. That's the magic of marketing, of branding, right? So if anyone is a coach, you are in the most powerful position to help the younger version of you. You just have to figure out where in your life do you want to help that person? How did you think? How did you act? And he's the guy I'm talking to every time I lift up the camera.
Yeah, interesting. That's an inspiring journey. That's for sure. You talked a bit about before, and I'm quite sure this is something you help people with as well, like basically being able to monetize their personal branding.
Yeah.
What would be the first steps for the people listening that actually is really inspired by your story and then would love to start monetizing themselves?
Speak. Speak. And the first step is for you to conquer yourself. You can't speak about something you haven't conquered. You don't understand it yet. There's an old saying, what I see, I forget, what I hear, I remember, but what I do, I know, right? So you can only help yourself to that level that you have conquered yourself. So that's the first part. And then if you want to start as a coach, my biggest mistake was I started talking about the solutions, but people couldn't relate until I hired a coach. His name is Rory Vaden, American, New York Times bestseller, really cool dude. Shout out to Rory. And he said, Mike, you need to talk about the problem. Just talk about the problem. What's the problem? Yeah, we have to figure that out. What problem am I solving? And my one-word problem, I'm solving self-sabotage. That's when I figured that I'm self-sabotage. So I talk about self-sabotage in different ways and storytelling. So constantly when you see me on Instagram, there's different ways of doing it on different platforms. Instagram, you can put out reels that gives you new audiences, like you hope to go viral. And then you have speaking videos, right? So in my speaking videos, I usually come out with a hook that hooks people that they can relate. And they're like, oh, we want to hear that. And then I'm like, I used to, I thought, I. So I talk about I all the time. And I was wrong. And then people, and my problem was, because if you say, you have a fucking problem, they're like, no, I don't. If I say, I had a problem, then the guards are down. So you got to speak about yourself. And my biggest advice is speak about, if there's something you're very embarrassed about, talk about it. Mm-hmm. Because I can guarantee you that others are as well. And if there's something people want to be free of, is other people's judgment, and they respect you for being brave enough to talk about that subject.
Yeah, and they want to basically see what's behind the...
They want to relate. When you start to speak about a problem that is, for example, when I say, hey guys, I took a lot of cocaine and I fucked a lot of women.
Yeah.
How can you say that? But that's the truth. But that's not me anymore. So what I did was, and that gives people respect. But then you have different kind of ways of coaching. Like you have Alex Hormozi, he talks about marketing. Actually, he talks about a lot of kind of stuff. But he's also brutal about who he was. He's very authentic, and he's a great storyteller, right? So I'm not comparing myself with him. He's way above my level right now, but he's still great. And what you got to do as a coach, you have to first figure out, how are you helping? And the older version of you are the one you're most powerful, equipped to help, because you walk the path. Now talk about the problems that you have or had, and talk about how you solved them. And then people will listen.
Is there... related to these principles and all these like great experiences you had, like, is there like a success story from one of your like current either clients or previous clients that you'd be able to share?
Oh yeah, I have many. I have a lady that was, she was a middle-aged lady, a mother, and she had a party lifestyle and taking a lot of drugs, and she was going out on the weekends taking drugs. She was overweight. She had a lot of self-doubt. Her self-image was completely destroyed. And I taught her how to resist temptation. I gave her some principles, and she has already lost, 15 kilos of body fat. And she has been so strong and in her journey that she, for example, every time that she was starting to whine, oh my God, it's so bad. I said, stop fucking, I'm talking to him like that. Stop fucking whining and tell yourself you don't do overwhelm. Calm down. And I slap people in the face with the truth. And every time I did that, and she figured out she had the strength to actually go through it, she grew. That's how we grow, right? She grew. And people are mistaking. So if you have, we are all constantly trapped in our comfort zone. And we think that we can jump one level. So just imagine you have a circle here, and there's another circle, another circle, another circle. So in the middle, you have the comfort zone. Next out, you have, in another stratosphere, you have that's the fear zone. Now here you have the learning zone, and then the growth zone. You can't skip the fear zone. You have to face your fears. And I teach them how to face their fears by giving them new perspectives on it.
Is there like a common fear that like 50% of the people you help have, or is it like completely individually for each simple person?
Everyone is afraid of being judged. Everyone is afraid of not being liked.
Yeah.
And that is
self-validation.
Yeah, but that is also survival instinct, because if we were expelled from the pact, we would die. So we want to be liked by everyone. So it's a normal human fear.
Yeah.
There's also a fear of not being good enough, which is the same. And in all reality, there is only two basic emotions. There is love and fear. And then there is variations of that, right? And we are so good at making up stories and say, no, I don't fear that. So self-sabotage has to do with fear, has to do with a coping mechanism. And you have perfectionism, you paralyzed, you have destructive behavior because you don't feel you're good enough, you don't feel worth it. And when you don't feel worth it, you're going back to your baseline. But the fear that everyone has is to be judged by others. That's the biggest fear I see. So they don't dare to be their authentic self. And because I faced myself, I tell everyone, I don't give a fuck if you like me. I love myself. I like myself so much. I'm so self-centered. I know who I am. That's what I'm trying to say. If I go to you, Frederick, and, dig into your past, I can probably say something that will make you sad, right? We can all find something. But if I called you a blue bicycle, you're a motherfucking blue bicycle, you'd be like, what? It wouldn't touch you, right? Because you're not attached to that, right? But you are attached to a narrative. For example, I was bullied as a kid. So people could say stuff to me that would make me sad before. But the reason why I have learned the art of detachment is from my process is because I've learned that the world is not as it is. The world is as you are. So whatever they think of me, they think of themselves in some level. And if I constantly keep the promises to myself, or as often as I possibly can be reminded of it, then I get what I call self-trust. When I get self-trust, it's just like when you call me something, I know that it's not my world. I don't care. Oh, thank you. I never thought about it like that. Goodbye. So I teach people to trust themselves by staying in alignment with what they say they want to do. So there's something called cognitive dissonance, right? Cognitive dissonance is you thinking you are this, you acting you are this. And there is a dissonance here. So I'm trying to merge that. So you are as close as to, again, my principle, I say I do. And it goes down to even the smallest things. If I have told myself, if in my mind, I like to have a clean house, like if I'm too lazy to do that, I'm starting to lose respect for myself. So either I clean or I hire a cleaning lady. I want to have a clean house. I have a clean house. I want to have a car. I do what it takes to get that car. And that's what I teach people. I teach people to stay true to their word. Be your word.
Yeah, and basically just go for it.
Yeah, but be your word. And then I teach them the art of, that's my step number 5 in my pyramid, 6-step pyramid. It's this spiritual discipline. In all reality, what I teach them there is something I have from the Toltecs, which is a South Mexican spiritual belief. And there is a guy called Luis de Ruz who has, Miguel, who has written a book called The 4 Agreements, which is inspired from the Toltecs. And he teaches the art of detachment through 4 skills. Number 1, always be impeccable with your word. That means always talk highly about yourself and about others. Difficult. We tend to want to talk shit about others, right? But if you talk shit about others, you talk shit about yourself too. So be impeccable with your word. And number 2, take nothing personal. Difficult. But how do you do that? I teach them that. And assume nothing. Assumptions is what kills relationships, because what we can get, it's not the other person annoying you, it's your expectations of who they're supposed to be that annoys you. A good example. I had a client, she was complaining about her husband for 20 minutes in a call, and she said, he's a drunk, he doesn't keep his promises, he smells out of his mouth, he beats me once in a while, he's this, he's that, he's fucking crazy, she said. And then when she was done, I said, okay, so you said, he drinks a lot, he this, and I just repeated everything she said. I said, listen, that image you have of him matches perfectly a drunk. I think the only crazy person here is you thinking or expecting him to be sober. You crazy, I told her. As she woke up. So again, make no assumptions. And the last thing, always do your best. Even when you take a shit, do your best. Be present, do your best. And if you learn those 4 things, you start to detach. And when you detach, you can say, it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah. Interesting. So with all that in mind, like if you were able to go back in time and speak with a younger version of yourself, you said 39 now?
39, yeah. You wouldn't believe it, no? Yeah.
Look young. So that's some principles work.
Yeah.
So let's say if you could go back to a 15 or 20-year-old Mike, like would you tell him anything? Like which advice would you actually give yourself if you could?
Yeah, I got that question a lot. No, I wouldn't, because then I wouldn't be here. I had to go on that path. I believe everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
You know, you've probably seen the movies where they go back in time and they're very careful of changing anything, right? Because otherwise it's a new dimension open, right? Yeah. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. In my course of profession, I needed this to get at this level I'm at. Yeah.
So basically, just it's quite interesting question, because either people go 2 different directions.
Yeah.
Either they have a lot of different advice to shape themselves into something greater, but it's theoretically, of course, or it's, as you say, that you're happy for the person you have become and the journey you wouldn't have been without.
No, exactly. So I believe that every man needs to go hardcore in his life and at some point crash. To be a man. Until that, he's just a boy in an adult man's body.
Yeah.
I believe people change through pain. People grow through pain. They move through pain. And especially in self-sabotage, when you have that behavior, we all have a little bit of self-sabotage in us. Some people more than others. You need to get angry.
Yeah.
Get angry at yourself. Use that rage towards yourself, not the world, but towards yourself, as a leverage into courage. Anger can quickly develop into courage, right? And I needed that long journey to get really angry at myself.
Yeah. It's actually funny you say that, because there is this great saying, you probably know it, that every man has 2 lives. One is when he's getting born, and the other one is when he wakes up.
That's right.
It's actually what you're saying as well.
That's right. Yeah, there's also another saying on that we all live 2 lives. The life we live here and the unlived one in here, right? And the question is just, when do you get enough pain for you to actually live this one in here?
Yeah, and just, it's a
good one.
Great way of putting it, 100%.
So if I should give others an advice.
Yeah, because that was actually my next
Was it? Okay, good. Yeah.
We are getting closer to the end, and that's actually for the people that has been following along until this point now. I'm sure they have tons of questions.
Hopefully.
Probably the most common one would be, what could they do, and how could they basically get started implementing all these things that all this knowledge you actually have given us now?
My best advice is go hard at everything you want. Fail. People are... it took me such a long time to really go all in. So I tried to play it safe. And what I really learned is that, world-class individuals, they play to win. While everyone under them, they play not to lose. Biggest one. I play to win. And I know a part of winning is losing, learning. And everyone who's listening to this podcast, go harder at your goals. You're way too fucking comfortable. I know you are. I know I coach. Everyone is too comfortable. You're not going hard enough. You cannot. No, you cannot sleep long. No, you cannot go to bed now. No, you cannot drink alcohol. No, you cannot go at your goals and go so hard. And it's almost like I would say, burn yourself the fuck out. Burn out. And it's a really counterproductive advice. But that's where you really learn. You only learn on the edge. That's where you learn. But make sure you bring in high moral standards.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. So go hard, but be a good person.
Thank you so much for coming, Mike.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.